In this video, we're going to build every single automatic farm in Minecraft. Considering there are 30 farms to build, with some taking several hours to finish, and that could potentially make me lose my hardcore world if I'm not careful enough, this is going to be quite the challenge. So the very first farm we're going to build is the villager breeder. The only problem is the closest village is almost 1,000 blocks away, so yeah, it's gonna be fun. So now I'm just gonna craft myself some pistons and a boat, and it's time to bring back 2 villagers. Yeah, this is going to take ages. So we finally have the 2 villagers back at base, and on top of that, my world is now beautifully decorated. So I was thinking we could build a farm around here, so let's get collecting all the materials. Now that we've got all the materials, let's move on to the building. As you can see, the villager breeder is done and it's working pretty well. So next, we're going to work on the sugarcane farm. Keep in mind that straight after building the sugarcane farm, I'm actually gonna go fight the Ender Dragon. Like that, I will have, plenty of sugarcane to make fireworks once I have the elytra. So yeah, let's go ahead and get all the materials. Yeah, of course I don't have any iron, so let's go get some. So now that we've got all the materials, let's start building the sugarcane farm. Okay, so we're done with the sugarcane farm. Now, I might add an extra layer later on in case I need more sugarcane, but this will do fine for the moment. So now, for a bit of fun, let's prepare for the Ender Dragon fight. So first I actually need to find a nether fortress. Yes, I haven't found one yet. So yeah, it would be good to find one because we're not gonna go very far otherwise. It took a bit of time, but finally I found the nether fortress. So yeah, let's go collect some blaze rods and nether warts. So next we're gonna focus on preparing for the fight by brewing some potions and enchanting my stuff. The stronghold seems to be in this direction, so what we're gonna do is head into the nether so that we can travel a bit quicker. Once I'd found the stronghold, it was time for a bit of exploring. I guess it's time for the big fight. Okay, so now let's go get the elytra. Okay, so we finally have the elytra. It's gonna make things much easier. Oh yeah, and we're just gonna add a little decoration to the house. I quickly crafted all the items I needed, and then it was time to build the carrot farm. To start off, I chopped down some trees to clear the area, and then I started building the farm. The last step was to bring the 2 villagers in, so I managed fine for the 2 farmers, but I struggled a bit with the Fletcher, who clearly wanted to explore the world instead of being crammed up in a tiny space. Okay, so we've got 3 farms done, only 27 to go. Great. So I was thinking, as we have the sugarcane farm already built, it would make sense to build a creeper farm. Like that, I will have gunpowder as well as sugarcane for making fireworks. Once I had all the materials, I headed out to find a deep ocean so that the farm would be as efficient as possible, and I started the construction. The farm was almost done, but I realized that my elytra had ran out of health, so I traded with some villagers to get mending. I also managed to get power 4 on a second bow, so I merged it with my current bow to get power 5. Finally, I headed back to the creeper farm to AFK for a bit, and there we have it, unlimited gunpowder. Next, let's work on the Enderman farm. So first we'll be needing some leaves, as well as some lava. And like literally every single farm in this video, we will also need more hoppers. Last but not least, for the building location, we will obviously head over to the end. Oh, and guess what? I forgot to put a name on the name tags, so I wasted time going home just for that. Now, the Enderman farm isn't too difficult to build, but somehow I always struggle with this part. Yeah, thankfully I had my elytra on. This next part took a bit more time than expected because I couldn't get an endermite from 2 stacks of ender pearls, but basically once the endermite spawns, you put it in a minecart with a name tag on, and all the endermen that spawn on the platform will run towards it to kill it and fall down to the bottom. Honestly, this has to be one of the most satisfying farms to use. So now I was thinking of doing a pretty basic farm. The chicken farm. Yeah, and actually all my chickens have run free because I think an enderman put a block right here, so yeah. But that's not an issue because these poor little guys are gonna be put into a farm, so they might as well enjoy their freedom for a bit. So honestly, the materials for this farm were pretty straightforward considering it is one of the smallest farms we'll be doing, so soon enough I was already building. And finally, I brought some of the runaway chickens inside for the farm to start working. Basically, when the chickens lay eggs, the eggs are hatched, and when the babies grow up, they get burnt in the lava. I mean, what a lovely life. The next farm we're going to build is the iron farm. So this farm requires quite a few materials, but the trickiest to get are the name tags for preventing the zombies from despawning. The best solution I found was to trade with a librarian until he would sell me name tags against emeralds. Once I had everything, I started clearing out the area on the side of my house for the farm, and finally, it was time to start building. Once the main structure was complete, I moved on to the next step. Basically, on each of the 4 parts of the farm, there will be a zombie in the center and 2 boxes of scared villagers on each side, which will make the iron golems spawn. The last part is to bring up everyone, so 24 villagers and 4 zombies in total. This part was extremely time consuming, and guess what? I ran out of villagers. To not waste too much time, I decided I would build a honey farm while I waited for more villagers to fill the villager breeder. So for the honey farm, I went to collect some extra redstone, I crafted the items I needed, and I started building. Once the build was done, I finally had enough villagers in the breeder, so yeah, I spent quite a bit of time bringing all the villagers over and then up into the farm, as well as 2 extra zombies. Finally, after a couple hours, the iron farm was done, and honestly it was worth making it this big because it was extremely efficient. Now, the bee farm was complete, but it was still missing something quite important: the bees. So first I set to work collecting bee nests in the flower forest, and then I released the bees and bred them so that I could get 3 bees in each hive. I then placed down the beehives in the farm, and of course I had to do that during the day, so it was really tricky, but I managed, and yeah, we're done with the honey farm. Next, let's move on to the cactus farm. So this farm mainly requires sand, glass, fences, and, well, obviously some cactus. Honestly, this farm is pretty straightforward to build, which is nice after the enormous amount of time the iron farm took me. Now let's move on to the flower farm, which isn't too complicated either. I started crafting the items I needed, but I quickly ran out of redstone, so I went to do a bit of caving to stock up. Now all we need to do is clear an area for the farm and start building. For this farm to work, you basically put some bone meal in the chest, and then you press on the 2 note blocks, and there we have it. Now, for a slightly larger farm, we're going to build the slime farm. I'm building it quite early, partly because I'll be needing some slime for making the sand duper later on, for example. So first, let's head over to the mangrove to start clearing out a 45 by 45 area. So now that the area is all cleared, let's get on with the building. We're done with the collection system, so now we can move on to the spawning area right above. Oh, and of course I forgot to get magma blocks, so just give me one moment. I then spawned an iron golem in the center of the platform to kill all the slimes, and finally I used some cobblestone to build the walls and ceiling. Okay, so now we're just gonna build up to make the AFK platform, and we can just let the farm do its magic. Next, we've got the wool farm, and this farm is literally so simple that we're not gonna waste any time on it. Yep, that was quick. The next farm is really handy for stocking up on sticks, wood, and for crafting scaffoldings. I am obviously talking about the bamboo farm. For the farm, I built a collection system at the bottom with some powered rails and a minecart, and then the bamboo above will be harvested by some pistons linked to some observers that basically detect when the bamboo has grown high enough. Next, we're gonna do the mob farm, which is actually the very first farm I learned how to build due to its simplicity and the large amount of useful loot you get from it. So yeah, the main material we'll be needing for this farm is cobblestone, and a lot of it. Now let's get unlimited fuel by building the lava farm. Okay, so let's get back to it. Now we have a little issue. Basically, we need to find some dripstone for the farm, but I still haven't found any, so it's time for a bit of exploring. So now we need to craft a ton of cauldrons. And of course, we'll need plenty of lava. Now that the farm is complete, basically I need to AFK by right-clicking non-stop with a bucket in my hand. So farm 16 is going to be the sand duper, which is an awesome farm because it can duplicate sand, gravel, and even concrete powder, which will be a huge help for future building projects. So first we have to get rid of the portal blocks, so we can easily do that by growing a mushroom underneath them. Then we can make this little redstone contraption and add some slime blocks, and finally on top we can place the sand. For this farm to work, I also need to build a little mechanism that keeps this chunk loaded. So I actually got it wrong because when I went into the nether, it wasn't actually facing in the same direction. But yeah, after a bit of time, I finally figured it out. The last step is simply to build the collection system over in the end, and there we have it, literally all the sand we could ever want. Let's move on to a much more complicated and fairly dangerous farm, the Wither Skeleton Farm. Step 1, we need to head into the nether to find a nether fortress in a soul sand biome. Step 2, let's collect a bunch of nether bricks. And finally, step 3, let's get on with the building. To make things easier, I actually brewed some invisibility and fire resistance potions to be a bit less bothered by ghasts and blazes, even though I won't be fully invisible as I'm still wearing my armor and my elytra, but yeah, I'd rather be a bit protected. This farm is really long to do because you have to build stuff in the nether, on the nether roof, and also in the overworld. But yeah, honestly, when you start getting some wither skulls, it really makes it all worth it. And now let's have a drum roll for the most useful farm in the video, the mud farm. Honestly, I'm really building this farm for the sake of the video because I doubt I will ever use it, but yeah, let's get on with it. Very useful farm right here. So farm 19 is going to be a combo of melons and pumpkins. After gathering up all the materials I needed, I started out by digging a large square where I was going to put some rails and a minecart for creating the collection system. On the layer above, I planted some pumpkin and melon seeds, and finally on the very top layer are the observers and pistons for harvesting the fully grown crops. Now, for the leather farm, I was wondering if I should use cows or hoglins, but the only way to make it fully AFKable is to do it with hoglins, so that's what we're gonna do. Yeah, I'm not sure AFKable is a word, but we're gonna use it. So first we need to head up to the nether roof, making sure to be in a crimson forest biome. So this farm is made up of a spawning platform with warped fungus on the sides that will scare the hoglins and make them run straight into the lava pit. Yeah, I kind of forgot to remove some building blocks, so the hoglins were running everywhere, but yeah, I quickly sorted that out and it's all good. So next on the list is the string farm. Okay, so this is quite ridiculous, but after building all these farms, I was like, okay, Tootsie, you've got to have a go at building your own farm. So yeah, this is the Tootsie made AFK spider farm, and I can promise you it has been ranked the worst farm ever. But at least I gave it a go. Yeah, I mean, the ratio of the time it took me to build the farm, the amount of materials I used, and the efficiency of the farm, it's pretty bad. After this beautiful fail, let's move on to a very big farm that requires a ton of magma blocks, the gold farm. Now that I've removed every single block of magma from my world, let's move on to the building. So first we're gonna make a collection system where all the pigmen are going to fall. So then in the center we have to create a lure by using some turtle eggs because the pigmen want to break them and they will automatically fall down to the bottom. Finally, we can build 4 large spawning platforms, and I had ghast constantly spawning, which was super annoying. But to prevent that, I made this pattern out of glass at the very top, which would actually prevent them from spawning. Next is the raid farm, so let's quickly gather up all the materials we need, and actually we're also going to empty the iron farm chests because they are getting a tiny bit overloaded. So yeah, this farm isn't too difficult to build, especially in comparison to the incredible loot you get from it, and I'd say the only annoying part is bringing over the villager, but even that isn't too bad because you can quickly bring him over in a boat. So yeah, I would definitely recommend you guys building this farm in your world to get loads of emeralds and totems of undying. Now we're going to go farm some wither skeletons because for building a wither rose farm, we actually need to spawn the wither. I've got all the materials I need in my shulker boxes, so let's head over to the end. The first step is to remove the portal block, and then we can start building the area for the chicken that will keep the wither distracted. The next part is quite similar to the Enderman farm because we basically have to build a huge spawning platform and add a silverfish in the center. And we're gonna name this little guy BlazeDude. Yes, I know I have great inspiration for names. Finally, for the scary part, we have to spawn the wither, and we're using water to block the impact of the first explosion. Next, we can remove this block so that the wither attacks the chicken, and all we need to do now is spawn-proof a bit the area and AFK. Next, we've got the blaze farm. For that, we'll be needing some glass, so it's really handy to have the sand duper. What we've got to do is basically fly over to the nether fortress, and then we have to dig up the area underneath the blaze spawner and build a type of box made out of glass. I kept being bothered by blazes more and more, so I headed back to base to brew a few potions of fire resistance. Okay, I admit, I also used some invisibility potions again, even though I kept my armor on. Please don't be angry at me. At that point, I needed to make the farming area and place down some lava buckets, so I thought it would be a good idea to go in with the blazes, but yeah, it wasn't. So I placed the rest of the lava from the outside. Farm 26 is the witch farm. The only problem I have is I only found a tiny swamp near the mangrove with no witch huts. So yeah, time for a bit of laggy exploring. Okay, we have finally found a swamp. Yeah, you're not funny, Tootsie. This is more like it. I spotted a witch hut in the distance, so I went over to kill the witch that had spawned, and it was finally time to start the building process. Well, that was pretty quick. Nah, just kidding. Here's the full build. So basically, I placed all these tripwire hooks attached to string, and as soon as a witch spawns, she gets flushed by the water, and I can collect the awesome loot. Now for one of the most complex farms of the video, we've got the tree farm. So we'll be needing some slime as well as some redstone. And yeah, I've got to say, having all these farms is so handy. Oh, and actually you can see how annoying this farm is going to be to build by the amount of pistons we need to craft. Where should we build the tree farm? In a forest, obviously. So here I noticed I went wrong, so I had to destroy and rebuild this entire part, which was pretty fun, as you can imagine. Now, my thoughts on this farm is that it may be super long and complex to build, but wow, it is so worth it. I guess I won't have to chop down a tree ever again in this world. The smelting farm is going to be the last relaxing one to build because next is the Guardian and the Shulker farms, and oh my, I am not looking forward to building them. So yeah, let's fully enjoy the relaxing building process, and in French we call that le calme avant la tempête. Well, as I said previously, we're now going to do the Guardian farm. So first, let's craft and collect all the materials we need. This farm can be quite tricky to make because you get attacked from everywhere, and on top of that, you get mining fatigue from the Elder Guardians. Thankfully, I've got some potions to help me, so yeah, let's go kill the 3 Elder Guardians. From now on, we won't get mining fatigue anymore, so we can start working on the large portal frame in the center of the farm. On either side of the portal, we have to make 2 temporary platforms that will enable us to place a bunch of fence gates and water sources that will basically push all the Guardians into the Nether. To actually bring the Guardians to the surface, we will also need to cover the top of the monument with soul sand. Finally, we can build a collection system in the Nether underneath the portal. Okay, so now it's time to AFK, so I'll just remove the temporary platforms and the farm is in action. Yeah, if anyone needs prismarine shards, I've got a ton and I have no clue what to do with them. We have finally reached the last farm of the video, the Shulker farm. So I've got everything for building it, except I'll be needing to craft lots of scaffoldings. So let's head down to the spider farm to AFK. Okay, so we've got all the scaffoldings crafted, and we just need to craft a bunch of extra slabs, and yeah, let's head over to the End Islands. So I need to build a farm near an end city to make it easier to bring a shulker at the end. Right here is perfect, so let's get on with it. So as you can see, the farm is done, but I just need to pop back into the overworld to get some rails because we need to build a railway to bring over the shulker. Once the shulker was in the minecart, he traveled over to the farm and was dropped by an activator rail, so all I had to do now was wait for him to teleport to the center of the farm. So as you can see, the shulker is in the right place, and we just need to activate this lever, and there we have it. The shulker farm is finally done, and I can craft all the shulker boxes I could ever need. Thank you so much for watching the video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it because it was quite a tricky and time-consuming video to make. So if you would like to see more content like this, don't forget to leave a comment, like, and subscribe. I guess I will see you in the next video. Love you!